This podcast is part of the BombPod Media Network.
And it's working.
Hey everybody.
Have you ever been riding in the car smoking a cigarette and then you throw the cigarette out the window and like 20 seconds later you smell something burning and then you look in the back seat and your grandma's fingering herself?
Oh, wow.
Last week, I felt something in my heart this week.
I like where that turned.
We dulled it down a little bit.
Yeah.
And then a lot of people were upset because they said, you guys were not raunchy enough for us. Ohio was built on disgusting values.
Yeah. No values.
We didn't garner these 12 listeners by talking about, our favorite Barbie doll.
Yeah, we don't try to keep it classy, but...
And our favorite crock pot recipes. We garner these listeners by talking about shit in our pants.
There's nothing wrong with crock pot recipes, though.
No, I like crock pots.
Yeah, I enjoy me a good crock.
And after the gift of Google Home for Christmas, I've got the smart outlets, and I can start the crock pot wherever I'm at in the world, as long as I have a data connection.
That's how it needs to be.
I pull up McDonald's, I get on the Wi-Fi, I start the crock pot, and I jerk off for 6 hours like the guy in the Gypsy Rose murder case. Just getting after it.
Yeah, he did his thing.
Trying to rip the head off. And it might be a little late, folks. If this is your first time listening to the Brohio podcast show,
we're sorry.
Just turn away. If you have a soft heart, if you care about animals, we love animals here. So stay around and listen.
But if you care about animals, stay around.
But if you get offended easily, turn back. Don't leave us a bad iTunes review. That's not nice. And speaking of iTunes reviews,
and that's not nice.
We need your help. We need iTunes reviews. If you're listening, just go on iTunes, click 5 stars, give us a good one. You can leave a comment.
Tell them Bill Wilkins sent you.
Bill Wilkins told me to come here because I shit my pants. Leave us a good review. Say I'm just here to drink Zima with my butt. That's what a lot of people have been putting on there.
Hey, that's a good compliment.
Yeah.
That's kind of what started this show.
And I want to say thank you to our Patreon subscribers. We got new ones. Natasha Ali.
Thank you.
Let me tell you what.
She holds down the fort.
She wilding out on Butt Chuggers Anonymous, our closed group.
Yeah.
She's on there just posting pictures of all kinds of rancid shit. All you people on Butt Chuggers Anonymous.
We still need to find the snake in the grass.
There is someone that keeps reporting JFK memes. And
come on, guy. It was forever. It was 50 years ago. Chill out.
Nazi memes, which we don't condone anything that resulted in deaths of people or people dying, but we do laugh about stuff. That's what you're here for.
Yeah,
is to laugh about other people's misfortunes.
You can laugh because it didn't happen to you.
Exactly. And we also have a new Patreon subscriber by the name of Catherine Hobog. I think that's how you say that. Hoball. She's donating money every month to us so she can unlock Bro Talk.
She's great. Both of them are great.
They are great. And we have a live show coming up in April.
Oh, yes.
I think it's April 17th.
In or around.
Somewhere close to there. It's a Saturday. It's in Cincinnati. If you're in the Cincinnati area, the tickets are $10 a piece.
It is going to be a blast.
You can go to our Facebook page or Instagram.
IG. Pretty much anywhere.
And you can find the link. Yeah, the direct link for the tickets is actually on our bio on our Instagram right now if you want to go buy tickets. If you're into that type thing. You can come out and see us. We're going to be with Mysterious Circumstances. That operation is ran by Justin Rimmel.
The 14th.
April 14th.
Sorry. Yeah.
And we're going to be with Jerry and Tracy Pauly from Hillbilly Horror Stories.
Our good friends.
And they are podcast stardom. And Jerry...
They're amazing.
He will do Skype sex with you anytime you want. My wife is like, you're doing it again with him. And I'm just like, I told you not to bother me when I'm cleaning my room. Get out. We have a podcast promotion.
Yeah.
From Marble Orchard Podcast. They cover Southwest legends, tales, and true crime. They're not that old. They're a couple months old. I remember when Brohio was first starting out. and everyone said,
Rough.
fucking take your ball and go home.
Right.
You guys are fucking stupid.
You're not playing with us,
I said,
idiots.
You can't get rid of me. You can't just, I'm like crabs. You can't get rid of me with a razor.
Now those people are begging.
Yeah.
Begging us.
Let us in.
No, they're really not.
Let us in. No one has begged us for anything. I usually do the begging around this place.
Right.
I'm like, please, God, I can get it done in under 70 seconds this time. I won't breathe on you and I won't look at you. God. Yeah, but you can check out the Marble Orchard podcast, and here's their promotion.
Welcome to the promo for the Marble Orchard Podcast, the weekly podcast that explores emerging mysteries of the American Southwest, hosted by me, Prickly Pete, and my co-host,
Faye Daniel. And we're not just another true crime podcast, we also discuss history, unexplained events, and local monsters.
You can find the podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, or your favorite podcast listening app.
Yeah, so that's a good podcast.
Check it out.
They do a 3-parter, I think, on the Flying Dutchman Lost Mine in Phoenix. I've been there. There's some serious legends going on down there.
Flying Dutchman's from SpongeBob, isn't it?
I never watched SpongeBob. I have girls, so they kind of.
Oh, no, I didn't watch it because of my kids.
I have all right.
That's another story.
Yeah. We also have a podcast promotion for the Fiercely Altered Perspective.
Yeah, our good
podcast.
friends.
And this can be shortened to the FAP podcast. They're not available yet. They're coming out in March.
See what they did there?
Yeah. Like FAP. I feel like that stands for something dirty, but I don't. Oh, yeah, jacking off. That's what it stands for.
I feel like that was Quinn's doing.
Oh, yeah. Every time a fappening hits the internet, I'm like, Jesus Christ. Hope Sam's Club has enough Vaseline for me. I got to go there and get a skid.
My poor wiener.
Other people's misfortune. Listen, the moral of that story is don't take pictures of your asshole in your iPhone because the iCloud is not secure. They will break into that shit like a bank vault, and they will steal your butthole pictures. They'll take them away from you, and they will give them to Reddit. They'll give them to 4chan.
Our butthole pictures are in high demand.
They will give them to MySpace. Your pictures of your balloon knot will be everywhere.
To MySpace.
Everywhere. That's Quinn Hammond and Ember Hammond.
I think they're related.
Formerly, I'm not sure. I think they're cousins or brothers. Sisters. They're bros. Like
bros.
us. But yeah, she did the Color Me Dead podcast, which is still running. You can check them out too. But here is the promo for the FAP podcast. Yeah.
Hello, everyone. This is Ember and Quinn with the Fiercely Altered Perspective podcast, aka the Fat Pod. We will be coming live March 2nd, but for now, you are about to enjoy
Some of the Brohios. 2 guys, recording equipment, a bunch of funnels and some Zimas. Oh yeah, enjoy the show.
Isn't Quinn's voice just,
It's his voices.
makes you silky down there.
It's godlike.
Makes you feel all silky.
Yeah.
I got a short newspaper article for you this week, and it doesn't involve poop or a pee-pee.
Man.
This, I was kind of at work this week, and I had just a case of the fuckets, and this article came across my news feed here, and I said, this guy definitely has a case of the fuckets. A postal worker in Louisiana pleaded guilty this week in federal court for destroying mail.
Oh, yeah, that's
Mark
bad.
Wayne Thompson, 50, of Pitkin and Vernon Paris, pleaded guilty to 1 count of use of delay of destruction of mail by postal employee. He is a former U.S. Postal Service employee who had a rural route in Elmer and Rapides Parish.
God, this place sounds horrible.
Yeah. I don't even know where the fuck I live at. Thompson admitted that instead of delivering the mail, he took it home from December 1st until May 1st.
Jeez.
And burned it.
Holy shit.
He estimated he burned 20 tubs of mail.
What a dick.
As a result, Thompson faces up to 5 years in prison, 3 years of supervised release, and a $250,000 fine. His sentencing is set for April 6th. You ever been sitting there waiting by the fucking window, waiting for grandma's check to come, waiting for, your stepdad, his check is coming, and he promised as soon as it gets there, he's going to buy you some more Mountain Dew because he drank up all your fucking Mountain Dew that week. He said he might even buy you the new Call of Duty game. And you're sitting there by the window waiting for the check. The mailman comes and the check doesn't come.
so sad.
It's because you got people like this that says, I'm just going to light the shit on fire.
Yeah.
I am fucking sick of my job. I'm sick of all you stupid people getting shit mailed to your house. I know this has been going on for hundreds of years, but I'm tired of dealing with it. I'm going to light this shit on fire.
And you know that nobody, none of your utilities believe you whenever you say you never received your bill.
Oh,
They're like, of fucking course you didn't.
It says right on my water bill, not receiving your bill is not an excuse to not pay your bill.
Right. They've heard that excuse so many times. They
Son
just
of
put
a
it on the bill.
bitch.
Like, what do you mean it's not an excuse?
Yeah, with the winter we've had,
If I don't get a bill, how am I supposed to know that I need to pay it?
I need to try something with my electric bill.
Yeah, yours is out of control.
Yeah, I saw it on Roseanne, where
Best underrated show ever.
yeah, so she would take the electric bill, and she would put the gas bill in it. You know, put a check for the gas bill, and then she'd take the gas bill and put the check for the electric in there.
Yeah, I remember that.
That's Roseanne for you, John
Yeah.
Goodman. They're coming back,
I know.
by the way. Today, we are covering the Montauk Project.
This is a fucking loaded gun of a subject here.
This is the most deeply rooted conspiracy I've ever read about. This thing is out of control.
It's everywhere.
The only saving grace for me for this one is the people that had the experiences are fucking lunatics.
That's very true.
But they're very accessible lunatics. They do a lot of interviews.
They talk.
I probably could have got them on the show because they're very easily obtained for interviews, but they were so fucking crazy. I didn't want them. Last time we interviewed somebody, those goddamn people talked for so long that we couldn't even use an interview.
Yeah.
So now I'm afraid of interviews now.
Yeah, that was kind of a crazy one.
Yeah. But there are a lot of degrees to this story. I eventually, or when I first started doing my research, I didn't think we would get everything. I didn't think we would be able to touch on everything, but I think ultimately we will be able to grab everything as long as we get cooking here. We're 11 minutes in. That's pretty good for us.
We got plenty of time.
And there's going to be a lot of references to the Manchurian Candidate.
Yeah, if you happen to know what that is. If not,
The Manchurian Candidate, okay, it's where they brainwash people. The government brainwashes people to...
pretty much, yeah, they'll brainwash them and they'll use like a code word or such to trigger them to do certain actions.
in most instances, it's an assassination.
Yeah.
But the thing about the Manchurian Candidate is the instant they commit the act, there's some type of implant or a trigger word where they can snap their fingers. Do you hear that? I snapped by the microphone.
Yeah.
They can snap their fingers, and this person forgets everything they've done it up until that point.
Yeah.
They
So
have no clue what they did.
it like triggers a second personality essentially.
So
Pretty cool.
Speaking in the aspect of Manchurian candidates, I'm speaking about briefly JFK and Robert Kennedy. So there's a story. So John F. Kennedy, it's alleged he was killed by Lee Harvey Oswald.
Yeah.
And if you read into that, there's just no way the one man was able to do that by himself. When they found Lee Harvey Oswald, he was just walking down the street. And am I correct?
He was in a movie theater.
And he just didn't have a fucking clue what was going on.
And all he kept saying was, "I'm a patsy," which that's pretty much just a scapegoat, like a fall guy.
Yes. And
He had tied CIA operatives or
Yes.
CIA accomplices. And
Right.
It's a crazy.
And they also speak, as far as the Manchurian Candidate, they say that they use these people, they send them in to commit the assassination. So they send in Lee Harvey Oswald, but actually the guns are blazing from the side. So you got like Secret Service operatives on the ground that are actually doing the shooting. Lee Harvey Oswald fires one shot, and then he's arrested, and they say he fired the shot. He's the one. Flash forward, Robert F. Kennedy, JFK's brother, he was assassinated when he accepted the political nomination.
Yep.
He was leaving the hotel through the pantry, and he was shot. I can't remember the guy's name. It leaves me right. It's like Saeed. I can't remember what it was.
I don't remember him.
So they did. There was a photographer that was in the room that snapped a bunch of pictures during the assassination. His camera was immediately taken away from him by the LAPD, and it was put in the property room. The guy that shot Robert Kennedy was never, he didn't die. He stood trial, and all during the trial, he's like, I have no fucking clue what happened here. I have, and the pictures that this guy had proved that there's no way the man that was convicted for the murders fired the shot, that the shots had to come from the side or behind him almost. There were also more bullets recovered in the walls than there were that could have come out of his gun.
Right, yeah.
Obviously, that's a red flag.
Something fishy.
But so then the photographer filed the correct paperwork in court, and the court granted him his pictures back. So he was going to receive his pictures back. The order was issued, and the pictures were being removed from the LAPD evidence room and taken to the court, and they were going to be turned over to the photographer. On the way to the court, the courier stopped for, I don't know, condoms. I don't know what courier stopped for. Stolen. So the pictures never made it back to the photographer.
Fishy.
The ultimate case of a Manchurian candidate. Some fishy shit going on right there.
Yeah.
But we are covering Project Montauk, or the Phoenix Project, or Camp Hero.
Camp Hero.
There's a lot of different stuff, a lot of different names for this thing. Like we said, this covers. There's a lot of different stuff going on here.
Yeah. We have a big spicy conspiracy. We have
Monsters.
aliens, Bigfoots, invisibility, Stranger Things, everything.
Yeah. This is, and that's the thing for us. That's our favorite Netflix show. Mm-hmm. This ties in very tightly with Stranger Things. This is said to be the inspiration for the Duffer Brothers when they created Stranger Things. Actually, the pilot...
And so it was called Montauk.
It was called Montauk.
Yeah. Not
Stranger Things. And the actual Montauk Project, there is a fucking, Demogorgon or something at the end. We'll get there. It's a sexy Bigfoot.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it is. The Montauk Project it's an alleged series of secret United States government projects conducted at Camp Hero on the Montauk Air Force Station on Montauk, Long Island, for the purpose of developing psychological warfare techniques and exotic research, including time travel.
I don't think the Air Force station's active anymore, is it?
No, it's not active any longer. It was turned over to the state as a nature refuge or just a wildlife park. A lot of it is inaccessible.
Yeah.
There is a giant SAGE radar that rises up in the sky that's still there. The SAGE radar is still there. And it's said that this SAGE radar was used to distribute microwaves and pulses to change people's moods.
Oh, okay.
They could make him cry. They could make him happy. They could make him sad. They could also we'll get to all that. They could make the crime rate go higher or lower. So someone in Chicago needs to turn that fucking thing down because their SAGE unit, something's wrong.
It's
out
getting
there.
rough.
Yeah. But this project, the Montauk Project, clashes and collides, and I mean that in the most
They're
literal
intertwined
meanings ever with the Philadelphia experiment.
Right. They say that the Montauk Project is kind of a continuation of the Philadelphia experiment.
And for those of you that don't know about the Philadelphia experiment, the Philadelphia Eagles are playing in the playoffs today. They're going to fucking lose. There's a closed group on Facebook called the Philadelphia Offensive. The most fucking obnoxious people, but they post the best memes ever. There's a lot of people there. But the Philadelphia experiment is an alleged military experiment, and yes, I got this from Wikipedia. There's an alleged military experiment supposed to have been carried out by the U.S. Navy at the Philadelphia Naval Shipyard in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, sometime around October 28th, 1943. The U.S. Navy destroyer escort USS Eldridge was claimed to have been rendered invisible or cloaked to enemy devices.
Yeah, it's a crazy story.
And ultimately, there were some of the most brilliant minds in the entire world that were involved with that project. So we had scientists pouring over from Germany. We had the one, Albert Einstein. He was not involved in that, but Nikola Tesla.
Tesla, yeah.
And then John von Neumann, who they say was as far as math goes, I fucking suck at math. My kids are bringing home fractions for homework. And I just get drunk and I yell at them and tell them that they don't need no education. You don't need no goddamn education. Ain't no man gonna marry you if you're smarter than him. How you gonna find a man to take care of you? And then my kids are like, we don't need a man to take care of us. I'm like, you're exactly right, sweetheart. Because men are the worst.
Very true.
I don't know where I was going with that. I suck at math. But
John
von Neumann, a brilliant mind. They say he makes Einstein look like one of those little stupid California raisins dancing in the commercial. Just a fucking idiot. But the Montauk experiment itself originates from the accounts of one Preston Nichols. And he's all over on the YouTubes. He's all over on the, you can find him on Ask Jeeves and Lycos and shit. He's all up on there. He's a fat old man, but he tells just miraculous stories about the events that unfolded at the Montauk Air Force, the Montauk Project. He says he didn't know about this shit his entire life. Something happened. He saw a movie, I think. Yes, it was a movie about the Montauk Project. And this said to have rejogged his memory and brought back some repressed memories of his involvement in the Montauk Project. Preston Nichols was born... I mean, he's a fucking time traveler, so it doesn't matter.
Does it matter?
He was allegedly born in 1946 on Long Island. He claims to have degrees in parapsychology, psychology, and electrical engineering. He authored a series of books known as the Montauk Project series, along with Peter Moon. Peter Moon. Did you moon him? No, I gave him the Peter Moon. I showed him my dick. That's so stupid. The primary topic of this book, of Peter Moon's book, is alleged activities of the Montauk experiment. I'll let you take this next part here.
I'm still trying to get over the Peter Moon. Well, these center on topics that include United States government military experiments in fields such as time travel, teleportation, mind control, contacting alien life, and staging the fake Apollo moon landings.
Yeah, they were. They kept on building on top of one another. They would figure out how to do one thing, and they would just do another thing. And the Philadelphia experiment eventually resulted in they call it a hole ripped in space-time in 1983.
Yeah.
And that's when the Project Montauk was happening in the 80s. That's what I have to make clear to you guys. Project Montauk was happening in the 70s and the 80s, whereas the Philadelphia experiment was happening in the 40s.
Right.
They collided. Project Montauk went back in time at the same time
the Philadelphia experiment went.
They were
thrown through a wormhole, pretty much.
They were trying to cloak an entire ship, make it invisible to they're trying to make it invisible to radar ultimately.
Yeah.
But they made the son of a bitch
Disappear.
Invisible altogether. They Harry Pottered that shit.
Yeah. I think they said how long was it? Like, I don't remember how long they said it, like, completely disappeared. Like,
it was a substantial amount of time.
Yeah. It completely, like, vanished off the face of the earth, essentially.
Yes. I wish I could do that to certain people without going to prison. So they cloaked this ship. They made it invisible in the 1940s, and it collided with Project Montauk in the 80s, and they hit head on. And this is kind of where
that's where they intertwine.
These accounts from these gentlemen that say they were involved. This is where, I mean, they were on the ship, the Eldridge, that was going into time. Now we have to speak about Project Rainbow. This one is
such a pretty name.
It is. I love rainbows. It was the name given by the CIA to a research project aimed at reducing the radar cross-section of the Lockheed U-2 and lowering the chance that it would be detected and tracked by Soviet radars during its overflights of the USSR. However, Soviets continued to track the U-2 flights in spite of experimentation with various technological fixes. They kept on discovering things. They're like, oh, this is good. And they would say, but we could probably do this with it. And they would just change the name of the project. These are all ultimately, the goal was to make something invisible.
Yeah.
to make things, and we did get the technology. It said we got the technology for the stealth bomber from the stuff, which can, for the most part, go undetected on most radars. But they said, so they had these ideas and these plans, and it said they presented a report to Congress. And obviously it was rejected because it was too dangerous. So they went to, they kind of underhanded and went to the Department of Defense saying they could create a super weapon that could drive enemies insane. And this is all the stuff, I'm speaking in terms of Project Montauk right now. They could drive enemies insane, and that's what they would use the SAGE radar for, to send out the pulses and the microwaves. They were going to try and induce schizophrenia. Congress would not okay the spending for the project, but the Department of Defense did.
Of course.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, I can fucking fry people's brains and shit. Sign us up.
And force people into schizophrenia. That's fun.
And then you think to yourself, how the fuck are they going to pay for a project like this? You can't exactly, just when you're filling out your paperwork, write down, I want to fucking destroy people's brains.
Because they got to account for the money
Mind
that
control.
they're spending.
It said allegedly there was a train in France, and this is kind of, there's a thousand different ways this one was said, but it said that a tunnel collapsed on a train in France, and there were a lot of people killed in the train accident, but the Americans were able to recover $10 billion worth of gold bullion from the train. This was said to be Nazi gold, not that Brazil gold. We're talking about that grade A Nazi gold. So, but that $10 billion did run out eventually, and then it was funded by Krupp AG from Germany. And like we said before, they had all kinds of scientists from Germany, and it's said that we were working together with Germany and the UK on this project. There's one instance where they designed a Montauk chair. We'll get to it. This motherfucker, when whoever was sitting in the chair was the ruler of the universe. This guy was a goddamn Jedi. But there was another chair in the UK. Robert's being attacked by my
She's
pussy.
molesting me over
God
here.
damn. She's so forceful.
She's aggressive.
Yeah. The project was originally started at the Brookhaven National Lab on Long Island, New York. I'm kind of done talking about the Philadelphia project. I'm in the 1970s right now for Project Montauk.
Catch up, assholes.
Yeah.
Jeez.
The lab was originally started at the Brookhaven National Laboratory on Long Island. It was called the Phoenix Project. They realized they were going to need a huge dish, a big one. And lo and behold, there was a decommissioned Air Force Base in Montauk, New York, right around the corner from where they were staying. And in our researchers' notes from Courtney and Julie, they did say that Montauk actually was smaller than a village. It's a hamlet.
Oh, that's fun.
That sounds delicious. I
Yeah.
don't know what it is. I love ham. So
It's a little ham.
put some mustard and Miracle Whip on it. Send it our
God.
way. You don't like Miracle Whip?
I do,
Okay, all right. Just making sure.
but both of them together.
No! But there was a decommissioned Air Force Base in Montauk. There was a SAGE radar unit that was already there. And it was one of the biggest, pros for moving the Montauk Project to this location is there is water access. So they could move this shit in, take stuff out, and they could use the water, and they could go undetected, and they wouldn't have to worry about the nosy neighbors pulling their blinds down and checking out what they're doing.
Always the biggest concern.
And the Montauk Air Force Base, there was a large underground, no one knows. That's the thing. There was underground bunkers, but they kept on building on top of that. They kept on building additional rooms. They kept going lower, but eventually there was a point where they were going to need a lot more room, and we will get to that. The equipment was moved into the bunkers in 1960 for Project Montauk. And what was believed to be a cover-up, everything above ground was given to the state park as a wildlife refuge.
But they still kept everything underground.
They did. That's the cool thing about the contract. When they wrote the contract up, they said, here is all of this beautiful land, the sprawling park. We're done with it. And at the end of the contract, they said, you can have everything above ground. You can have this area. You can have everything above ground.
Yeah, so it was worded to where they could
Kinda
work around that
subtly
little
put in there that
good old loophole.
there is a fucking, a entire city
underground,
but you can't have it, and don't even look at it. And you can still, to this day, you can go there. There's lots of people that do go there still. Mm-hmm. They're approached by security guards, people in Jeeps just driving around, just asking questions. Why there's ununiformed people just driving around asking questions at a state park, I don't know. The SAGE radar unit is still there. It's a giant dish. There's some Redditors that had collaborating stories. They say that they've gone there, and there's tunnel passages that are, concreted off. The walls are filled where you can see it's a tunnel to go underground. They say, no, this is them, not me. They've said that when they go there, if you take a stethoscope, you can hear equipment working through the concrete. There's something going on, and some people have claimed to hear voices when they're using their devices up against the concrete to listen.
I just love that they travel around with stethoscopes.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Well,
obviously they know what they're going to do.
Fucking crazy people for you. And they still speak up. There's this Austin or the Preston Nichols guy or whatever his
Nichols.
Yeah. He still sits there in his van with these electromagnetic units, and there are still there's microwaves and electromagnetic pulses still just beaming out of this place, and he can pick it up on these units that he has, and he will show anyone that wants to see. He's like, come here and look at this. It's a certain transmitter receiver, and you can see the waves still pulsing out of this place, which is kind of that's kind of crazy if you ask me.
Yeah, if there's anything that we know about most large scale either Air Force bases or any type of bases is that there's always your underground layers.
Well, that and this they might not be doing anything there any longer, but there could still be some residual shit coming out, which points the fingers that they were doing something
right
at some point, definitely. And while doing the project, they discovered that if they adjusted the pulse of the radar, the SAGE unit, this giant dish, they could alter people's moods. They took small groups of people and put them inside rooms. They would use the dish to blast them with radio and microwaves.
It's so thoughtful.
It's like putting someone in a hole and just shooting them in the head with a shotgun.
You yell at your kids for standing in front of the microwave, and these people are fucking blasting them full force.
By altering the pulse and frequency, they could change everything. One side effect, it was covering the entire base and the surrounding villages. They were essentially frying these people from the inside.
Yeah.
Many test subjects were killed. They were literally baked to death. They found out they could adjust the dish where they would send the burning radiation into the sky, and the mood-altering radiation they could direct at the humans.
That's sweet.
So like all this bad shit, we're just going to launch it into the sky.
They're just changing the mood of all these cooked people.
Yeah.
Like, you're cooked, but now we need to make you think that you really like it.
Yeah. Well, this is where it gets a little fucked up.
I taste good.
Yeah. That's the weirdest thing, man. I was down there doing that science experiment in the basement, and then I went home. I started chewing on my fingernails, and it tasted like beef jerky, man.
Now my foot tastes like
Do you
Cane's.
know how fucking good beef jerky is, man?
So good.
I love beef jerky. You ain't never had no turkey jerky. That's good. What about old Dick Mooner? Peter Moon.
Peter Moon.
What's Peter Moon doing? In 1973, they started using large groups. And for all of our military listeners, keep this in mind, they were inviting large groups of Army soldiers there for a little rest and relaxation, a little R&R. They found and by adjusting the pulse and the microwaves on this dish, they found that they could adjust, they could alter the crime rate, they could incite violence, and they could cause mass panic among animals.
Don't you love that it's all horrible things they can do? Like they're
We can't find the button to make everybody fuck each other. Jesus. Now, people are losing their fucking minds. Monkeys are throwing shit at each other. Everyone's trying to kill one another, and then they just dial it down, and everything's fine. They found out that adjusting the pulses on this SAGE unit, they could change the fucking weather. So it wasn't ultimately just changing people's moods.
there's HARP for you.
They were changing everything. Yeah, that's a later episode.
Oh yeah,
Rob's got a huge boner for that one.
I love HARP. It's a fun story.
Yeah, but the SAGE unit, it's also so they developed a certain program that would disable vehicles, burning out all electrical functions inside of vehicles. And I feel like that would be a good tool in war for us if we can, if we get in a little spat with Canada, which I don't think will ever happen.
No, they're too nice.
I love Canada. I love Canadians.
Yeah.
I love maple syrup. I love Bret Hart. I love everything Canadian.
Avril Lavigne.
I love the Minds of Madness. That's a really good podcast. He's really good. He's got the best voice ever. He's incredible. But if we did, get in a spat with Mexico or Canada, and they send a bomb, and we just push the button and turn off all their fucking cars, they'll be like, "Oh, fuck this! I'm not doing this. I got to go to work. These goddamn Americans are fucking my shit up."
Hey.
Various conspiracy theorists claim that the experiments themselves began in the early 1980s. Now,
Dun, dun, dun.
what kind of science experiments were going on at the Montauk Air Force Base? This is we're going to get to that right now. The claims are the facility was expanded to as many as 12 levels and several hundred workers. Some reports have the facility extending under the town of Montauk itself. Now, Nichols, he says he was brought in to work strictly on the SAGE unit, and he was an established electro engineer,
Yeah.
and he did a lot of things for the government prior to that. And it's said that they created a different timelines, so they were working on time travel stuff there. So this fucking guy, he would work his 9 to 5 in California. They would launch him through an underground tunnel all the way to Montauk, and he didn't know what year he was in. He didn't know what he was doing, but they would come to him in his sleep. They would grab him out of his sleep and take him through, vortexes. Mm-hmm. There's a difference between vortexes and wormholes. I think wormholes is what you have to punch a wormhole to go back in time, whereas a vortex is the entrance to a different world altogether, a different reality.
Could just be like an opening to like a parallel universe.
It's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
But he said these people were coming to him in the middle of the night, and they would take him on this time-traveling trip to wherever, Montauk, to work on this shit. This guy's he's a fucking Looney Tune.
Took a little bit too much LSD.
Yeah. Well, this kind of ties in also with the MK Ultra.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were just pumping.
Which
people.
is why I said that. Yeah, with LSD.
There is no doubt that MK Ultra happened.
They say there's that's a big thing with Manchurian candidates as well, as they would pump them full of drugs, and then they would convince them to do these things, and
the ultimate goal was to completely break someone's mind down, to create a null and void where there's nothing there, and then just program them like a computer, and that's what they did here at Project Montauk. Is they were able to eventually program these people's minds to do some
just stuff that would be normally against human nature.
Crazy fucking shit. Stranger Things shit.
Your inhibitions would just be going.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
And there's a lot of homeless people and orphans that were abducted and subjected to huge amounts of electromagnetic radiation to test mind control technology and remote brain programming. And very few survived. The ones that did survive, that's the ones that we speak about now. Like there's a Cameron name, I can't remember his name, and then Nichols. There's another gentleman on YouTube. His name leaves me right now. I'm sorry, but he said less than 1% of the test subjects lived, and then only a fraction of that recall the actual circumstances of the experiments and what actually happened. If you ask someone that was alive and coherent. Not a lot of people were during this day in like the 70s and 80s.
Yeah.
That it was not completely uncommon for someone you know to just vanish.
Right.
Just, but this is kind of right after the free love thing where people would just go on the road and they would just smoke pot and follow bands and stuff. So it wasn't completely crazy for someone to just...
They're just off the radar.
Yeah.
There's no cell phones or anything back then to talk to people. So.
Right. So it's not uncommon for these people to just stay gone. But also in this aspect, they're talking about hundreds of thousands of people that were coming up missing, just unreported missing people. But it was, like we said, orphans. And
yeah, they say that like during this time there was... I don't remember the exact number, but it was something crazy. Just like with missing children and runaway children, it was like 300,000 to 600,000 or something during a year.
Just these people are just missing.
Yeah, it was a stupid amount of people. I may be over exaggerating, but it's like either in the tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands.
Yeah. Now it said for Project Montauk, people had their psychic abilities enhanced to the point where they could materialize objects out of thin air. Stuart Swerdlow claims to have been involved in the Montauk Project, and as a result, he says his psionic facilities were boosted by the cost of emotional instability, post-traumatic stress disorder, and other issues. An alien supposedly designed a chair which an individual could sit in to boost his mental and perceptory powers. A prototype duplicate was given to England and put in a facility on Thames River. Now, no one knows where this chair came from. Just like an alien gave it to us. And that's not how I like to envision it. I like to think there was some intergalactic scrappers, some Star Wars shit, and they're like,
it's like Guardians of the Galaxy.
Hey, Bill, I don't know if I can fit this chair on a trailer, but we'd probably get a lot of money out of this chair if we take it to the scrapyard. And then Bill's like, oh, I don't care if you put it in there. Just try to stack it on top of the copper wire and that old toolbox we found. And they fucking take off through hyperspace. And the chair tumbles out. And it lands in Montauk. We get it here in the United States. And then we reach out to the aliens. And that's what they say about Tesla. Tesla, towards the end of this project, towards the end of his involvement with the Philadelphia experiment, he said that he had contact with out-of-world beings. And they said, you are doing some fucking seriously fucked up shit. You're going to kill a lot of people. You're going to fuck a lot of stuff up. And that was kind of Tesla's thing is he's like, I'm getting off this project because we are doing things completely wrong. There's a lot of stuff going on here that if we keep on going forward with it, we're going to do a lot more damage than we are good. But he said he got this advice from aliens. And the researchers for this project, the Montauk Project, speak a lot about having conversations with extraterrestrials as well, like getting advice. The aliens would tell them to tweak certain things to make things work better. But speaking about the Montauk chair, like we said before, we have no idea where the technology came from. And it said it came from the Sirius star system, the Sirius aliens.
Yeah,
that's where Sirius Radio comes from.
That's what I was getting ready to say.
They crank out the tunes.
The best alien DJs on the planet or in the solar system.
Yeah. The Montauk chair went online in 1974. They were essentially telepathically transmitting thoughts to a similar setup. So what they would do, people would get in this chair. They would hook electrodes and wires up these people's brains and hook that up to a computer. These people could think certain things. They think about fucking a pig, whatever you do, whatever you think about.
You put a pig in the other chair and then start squealing.
And it would transmit your thoughts to the other chair and other computer. And like we said, they have the other chair in Thames River, England. So this computer would pick up your thoughts clear across the world in a remote location.
I feel like this is just like a way more difficult way to work around a telephone.
Yeah. Haven't you stupid fucks heard of FaceTime before? Like, just fire it up, call your girls at the club, FaceTime her, FaceTime Julie, FaceTime Courtney, see See what the fuck? See what they're doing? I don't FaceTime. I don't like people seeing my face.
Very rare.
I don't like people calling me. I like when you call me, but if my brother calls me, like, I don't want to talk to you.
Yeah, I don't talk to anybody else.
Let's not talk about this.
Yeah.
They scrapped. They did scrap the first chair, and they built another. And they went off the technology from the first one. They were using a test subject by the name of Duncan Cameron. The Cameron brothers. I think it's the Cameron brothers. I'll have to get further down my notes here. They're very large players in this story. He was a very powerful psychic. After about a year of tests, the Montauk chair was shown to be working flawlessly. Now, instead of transmitting thoughts, the researchers wanted to try something new. Creating solid objects with the fucking brain sounds like a great idea.
Yeah, what could go wrong?
The idea was for Duncan to visualize an object, and provided there was sufficient power coming from the transmitter, he could make it materialize in thin air. He could also make things materialize in various places around the base. It wasn't just like right in front of him. He could make a fucking corn silo 50 yards away, but this thing just kept on growing. Some objects remained intangible, and others, the things he was creating with his brain, they would fade as soon as the transmitter was turned off. But if given sufficient power, Duncan could create permanent objects. The size and type of objects seemed only to be limited by his imagination, and it said he materialized buildings during these experiments.
Maybe that's how I found a dildo under my pillow once.
That's not mine.
Where'd this come from?
Damn dildo.
This don't smell like my ass.
You sticky dildo. Look, it's sticky. I ain't sticky. I'm a clean boy. I get the doo-doo wipes. I don't use that toilet. I'm not sticky like that. It's not mine. Where'd that come from? That's one of them psychic dildos. Someone made that dildo with their brain.
See all the veins?
You guys laugh, but I've had to have this conversation before. Try explaining to your wife.
Honey, I swear it's not mine.
I swear that's not mine. Well, it's a long story. I'm going to need you to sit down. There was a little experiment called the Montauk Project a long time ago. You ever see Stranger Things? Now, following the success of the object creation, the researchers at Montauk began to step up their tests by looking into manipulating the human mind directly. Why not?
Yeah.
And like I said before, they just keep on figuring out. They just want to take it further. You give it an inch, and they take a yard. They take a foot, whatever metric system you're on. In the United States, we use inches and feet. No one knows what the fuck that is.
This whole next part is fucking crazy, though.
I know. I work for a German company. We use metrics, and that shit makes sense. Why do we not use metrics
We
here?
have to be different. Same reason we don't go by meters. And
Yeah. How big's your dick? 13 millimeters. What? 13 inch? I don't know. Not very big. Now, I'll let you grab the
right.
seeing eye.
The seeing
here.
eye. This was the first, pretty much the first experiment that they wanted to do to manipulate human minds. So this is where they would give Duncan a lock of hair, or another object,
Pubic hair.
yeah, ass hair, and he would concentrate on the person that the object had came from. He could then see and hear everything that person would be able to see or hear, no matter where said person was.
Could you imagine how awesome that would be in war? Just to take over the brain of whoever you're fighting against. That would be the ultimate weapon. Maybe that's why North Korea hasn't nuked our asses yet, because they know what we got from Montauk.
Or perfect for your overprotective spouse.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
What is he doing right now?
I would use it. Sometimes my wife's like, "What are you thinking about?" I'm like, "You don't want to know what I'm thinking about." And she's
I've
like,
seen things.
and then we started playing this game where really I would tell her what I was thinking about, like the grocery store. She's, "What are you thinking about?" I was actually just thinking what animal could fit a head of lettuce up its ass? What species could get an entire head of lettuce up its ass without dying?
Elephant.
Yeah,
Easy.
yeah, easy. Hippopotamus.
Hamster.
Have you ever seen a hippo shit before?
Yeah,
Christ almighty.
muck spread. I think that's what I say. It's awesome. Well, after that, the tests were taken one step further. So instead of simply looking through the eyes and ears of another, Duncan actually tried to influence what the person was thinking and doing. So by pushing out his thoughts, he could take over someone else's mind, essentially making them do whatever he wanted. So people could virtually be programmed to do almost anything.
Completely without their knowledge.
Right. So he's essentially just controlling them. He's the puppeteer, sans hand up the ass.
Yeah, and it also says that he could do it to large groups and animals. He can make them all just lose their fucking shit.
Some good shit right there.
I would use it on my wife just to, when I'm like, hey, what do you want for dinner? And she's like, I don't care. And then I come home with Taco Bell and she's like,
I told you 3 weeks ago, I will never fucking eat Taco Bell again.
It's so accurate.
God bless.
So with time, they discovered that more than just simply a person's mind could be controlled. Electrical devices could be made to malfunction, to short out, or completely horseshit.
Just become a big old pile of poo-poo.
Yeah, it'd be donezo. So telekinetic effects were discovered as well, where Duncan was able to move objects, shatter windows, wreck entire rooms.
And who does this make you think of? 11.
11.
Little girl in Stranger Things. 11. Yeah. No doubt about it.
Duncan is 11.
Yeah. And one thing, when this stuff started happening, it was a kind of a power failure type thing. But a lot of his projects he was working on, things he was working on in his brain, they would just disappear.
Yeah, he would just brain fart out.
I've had a couple of those.
It's been there before.
But whatever he was trying to create, they were showing up hours later. Apparently Duncan was capable, this is where it gets really good. He was capable of altering the flow of time or operating outside of the flow of time. To achieve full mastery over the flow of time, researchers made an Orion Delta T antenna. The T stood for time. How fucking creative of a scientist. Those are brilliant fucking minds right there.
Pretty good.
And it was placed in the Montauk bunkers. But they had to excavate an additional 300 feet at Montauk to install the antenna. And the chair went above the antenna and below the signal transmitter. And ultimately that would remove all interference so he could just go balls to the wall, psychic brain power, fucking killing, slaying, snapping necks, cashing checks. I'm killing everybody. I'm beating your brain up with my wiener. After installing the new antenna, which took from 1979 to 1980, and collaborating Duncan to the new equipment, it was found that Duncan had almost total control over the flow of time. He could cause portals to open up almost any time by concentrating on a specific date. And the problem they were having is they were sending test subjects into these time holes that he was creating, and these stupid fucks were getting lost. You're taking homeless people and kids for your experiments. Of course, they're going to get lost in time coming back. They're on their way back. Like, I don't remember this part. This doesn't look very familiar. What if you could just get me to the 7-Eleven? I could show you where to buy some crack. Just get me back to the 7-Eleven there in Montauk, New York. And at this point, there was kind of things that weren't going exactly how they were supposed to, I guess. Maybe they were upset by people getting lost in time. So they kind of fucking axed the crew that they had there, and they got a new technical crew. And this was, the new crew was brought in. All that was known about them is they were called the Secret Crew.
It's so original. I love it.
My kids, they'll hide in a tent in their bedrooms. I'm like, what are you guys doing? We're playing Secret Crew. I'm like, all right. I'm going to go make some more pizza rolls. The project was rechristened Phoenix 3, and from 1981 to 1983, we are drawing very near to the end of this project at this point. From 81 to 83, the objective of the project was to explore time itself. If you're going to go for it, why not just fucking go for it? You know?
Right.
In order to explore the worlds beyond the time tunnels, the Montauk researchers kidnapped large numbers of homeless guinea pigs. They would spend time, about a week, getting them...
Not the animals.
No.
But they would just use them as test
We
subjects.
said at the beginning of the episode we love animals. So fucking come at me.
There's an overabundance of homeless guinea pigs in America, but
Medium
we're
rare.
not talking about them.
Medium rare. They would spend some time, about a week, getting them ready for the trip and then sending them through. If they returned, they were expected to make a full report of what they saw. Unfortunately, many did not come back.
Darn.
And here's this is some fucking... If any of you are high right now on the marijuanas, I would turn us off for a few minutes. This one's gonna make your head spin. I'll let you make the marijuana's head spin.
The project also used a large number of children in these experiments, which we kind of touched on a little bit. So these children were exclusively male. They were between the ages of 10 and 16, tall, blonde, blue-eyed, and fair-skinned.
So
in case they ran across Hitler.
It was just Nazis.
Yeah, exactly.
And I did learn that while investigating time travel and the projects, why it's more important for males to be used than females. In terms of energy, males project energy in the I guess in the essence of time travel, whereas females are more absorbent to energy. So
like mediums.
right. That's why, and I like to think of it, men project boners and women most
Receive
instances, not always the case. In a lot of cases, women receive the boners. That's how I like to think of it. But some women don't like boners. I can understand that.
We always think in layman's terms here.
Exactly.
That's what we do. So, of course, most, if not all, of these fit the idea of the Aryan stereotype.
Nazis.
Nazis. So, the exact purpose for these children is unknown, although all of them were initially sent to the year 6037 AD.
6037.
Yeah, to investigate a ruined city.
And they did find that Pauly Shore was still alive. He never fucking died.
Good. I was worried about that. So there they had to examine the statue of a horse and report back on what they saw. So after that, the children were sent on other missions. But it's unknown if they ever returned. It was later discovered that the project was connected with some sort of neo-Nazi organization and that the children were recruited to serve this group.
Oh my God.
Whew.
And it's also reported that somewhere between 3,000 and 10,000 people were replaced between 200 and 300 years into the future. As with the children, the exact purpose of the operation is unknown. Finally, a lot of time was spent viewing events from both the First and Second World War. Pictures were taken and events were monitored. So what they're saying is they took these people and they just dropped them. They just sprinkled them into the future. So
Sprinkle them.
200 or 300 years from now, there are people living from right now. Well, from the 80s.
You get a blue-eyed blonde kid.
Yeah, so who's to say that they weren't doing this 200 or 300 years ago before now? And when someone, these fucking people that are ridiculed for saying they're time travelers, who's to say they really aren't time travelers? Who are you to say that?
Yeah, I won't say it.
Yeah. And there was a portal created which allowed researchers to travel anywhere in time or space. This was developed into a stable time travel. This is ultimately what resulted in the underground tunnels with abandoned cultural archives were explored on Mars using this technique. So it's said that they went to Mars, and Julie talked a lot about this. They looked underneath. There's some pyramids on Mars, and they explored underneath the pyramids on Mars, and they did discover a solar defense system. And at that point, the scientists said, hey, we can't go back up there until we figure out what the fuck this thing is and how to get past it, or what it's going to do to us if we're around it for too long. It was determined that it definitely did cause cancer in California. Just like
shit.
You ever see that written on shit? Like you go to the hardware store and they're like a bag of cement. It says causes cancer in California. I'm like, what?
No, I've never seen that.
I see it all the time, man. Like, why? I'm glad it doesn't cause cancer in Ohio. Jeez Louises.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah. And they did make contact with extraterrestrials through the time tunnel, and technology was exchanged with them, which enhanced the project. This allowed broader access to hyperspace. Star Wars.
So they pretty much have an open portal to the Upside Down.
Intergalactic butt fucking. Yeah. I'm gonna go fuck my alien.
My favorite type.
Mind control experiments were conducted. Like we said, runaway kidnapped boys were abducted and brought out to the base where they underwent excruciating periods of both physical and mental torture in order to break their minds. Then their minds were reprogrammed. Many were supposedly killed during the process and buried on site. Others were released with programming as mind slaves with alternate personalities to be sleeper cells who could be activated to perform missions.
Manchurian candidates.
Yes. I'll let you grab that next one there.
Yeah. So on or about August 12th, 1983, the time travel project at Camp Hero interlocked with hyperspace, or in hyperspace with the original Rainbow Project. This is back in 43.
This is the Philadelphia experiment.
Yeah, this is your Philadelphia experiment we were talking about. So the USS Eldridge was drawn into hyperspace and trapped there. So we got two men, Al Bielek and Duncan Cameron, who both claimed to have leapt off the deck of the Eldridge while it was in the period where it was going invisible, and then where it was also rendered to be in hyperspace. So in that brief period of time that we talked about, they pretty much freaked out. They saw that something crazy was happening. They jumped ship. And they ended up, after a period of severe disorientation at Camp Hero, in the year 1983.
Right, so these guys were on the USS Eldridge in 1943. The invisibility cloak was activated. They knew something was going awry. They were shooting into hyperspace. They jumped off the ship, and when they landed at Project Montauk, Camp Hero in 1983. This is where they were greeted by the scientist John von Neumann, who was the lead scientist for the 1943 project.
Yeah.
But here they land in 1983, and he's still there.
And it says he supposedly died in 57.
Right, and when these two guys, Al Bielek and Duncan Cameron, they said that when they landed in Project Montauk, John von Neumann was like, I was expecting you.
Yeah. So they knew that it was going to happen because, with Montauk Project, they could go back.
Yeah.
So they knew that these two were going to happen. So it bridged the gap between those two projects.
Ain't that some shit?
It's crazy.
All right. So in 1940, there was a successful dry run of cloaking the USS Eldridge. So there was no one on board. They were able to make it completely invisible to the naked eye and to the radar. There was a lot of scientists at that point that joined, and they got some brilliant minds from Germany that were, prevalent in the studies of electrogravity effects. I'm not very good at that type of thing.
Yeah.
Right now, I could probably drink 6 Zimas with my ass. I could definitely butt chug some Kahlua, but I am not going to be able to help you out with electrogravity effects.
I can microwave a hot dog, but that's not all I can do.
Not those are really easy to get too hot, though. They don't fuck it up.
You got to worry about that.
And after the 1940 test, the Navy gave the project an unlimited budget. So they saw that they could make this thing invisible and cloak it. They said,
Cha-ching.
Take my fucking money. Yeah. Von Neumann and Tesla got in a fight. So that's like I said before, Tesla was receiving the outside voice. He was talking to the extraterrestrials from the outside. They said, hey, dickhead, you guys are doing some shit right now. You could probably, fucking kill everybody in the world. You're creating certain technologies that you're going to set yourself back centuries when you fucking blow the world up. So Tesla goes to von Neumann and says, hey, dickhead, we got to stop doing this. We got to roll this thing back. There's a lot of things we need to change. And von Neumann said, no, we got to power forward. We were onto something here. So,
wasn't that also the idea whenever we created the
atomic bomb?
Yes. Yeah, we were warned by extraterrestrial.
Von Neumann was taken off of this project eventually, and he was put on the Manhattan Project, and he was actually one of the lead scientists on creating the atomic bomb. So this guy, he's no slouch. He's not like you and I, Rob. He's a lot smarter. So Tesla said, "Fuck this! I quit." And on his way out, Tesla, he detuned a lot of the equipment and he set the project back months and put so when the Navy says, here is all the money you want, the Navy then says, okay, we're going to give you all the money you want, but you have to do this on our timetable. You have to have this done in a fucking week and a half, or you have to have this done in 3 weeks, whatever the case may be. But when the Navy opens up the government opens up their pocketbook and says, take as much money as you want, you're on their watch then at that point. But Tesla, he broke a bunch of equipment. He detuned some equipment. Von Neumann decided he needed new equipment, and the USS Eldridge was kind of revamped from the ground up. The USS Eldridge was already in existence, but they built the equipment on the ship, whereas before the generators, the coils, everything was just taken onto the ship. Now they were going to build it physically onto the ship. On July 22nd, 1943, they had the test. The ship between radar and optically was invisible, and this was in 1943. They discovered people were very disoriented when they got back. The Navy pulled the crew off and consulted von Neumann, who requested more time again from the Navy. The Navy, after consultation with higher-ups, announced that the drop-dead date was on August 12th, only less than a month after he just made this fucking fucked-up run that almost killed everybody. Von Neumann voiced his concern that it wasn't enough time. And at this point, he's a foreign scientist that's here. This is right before the world. This is right in the middle of the World War.
Yeah,
near it, and he's probably living in the fear like, if I don't do what these guys want me to do, I'm just going to get fucking exiled to Germany, where I'm already a traitor. I'm a scientist working for the U.S. government. So he said, okay, I can get this shit done in less than a month. Rushed through it. August 12th arrived, and they knew there was certain things that weren't ready and were not right, but they went through with the new test.
Bad call.
Yeah. The test began, and for about a minute, everything was all right. The ship's outline could be seen in the water. There was suddenly a blue flash, and the ship disappeared entirely. There was no radio communication. It was all gone. The ship was gone. Everything was gone. In about 3 hours, it came back, and one of the masts were broken. Some personnel were partially embedded in the steel deck. Okay, so there was fucking heads sticking out of walls. There was arms and body parts sticking out of the deck. These people were absorbed into the physical structures of the ship.
Pretty much all atoms were fused at this point.
It was fucking awesome.
Because I think if you remember when we talked about it, they did the original tests on the ship itself, and I don't think anybody else was on the ship then.
Right.
So we're not talking about living organisms. We're talking about, steel, just straight steel.
Yeah.
But now they got something else that they didn't kind of intend on.
Von Neumann's like, I did not mean
What could go wrong?
Yeah, I fucked this one up. Yeah. Other crew members were fading in and out. Some disappeared entirely. Many were insane. The Navy extracted the crew and proceeded with 4 days of meetings to decide about the problem. They decided there would be one more test with another dry run without personnel. They conducted the dry run using about 1,000 feet of cable attached to another ship. In late October 1943, the test occurred. The ship disappeared for about 20 minutes. When it returned, they found equipment missing. 2 transmitter cabinets and 1 generator was missing. The cabinet with 0 time reference generator was intact. At that point, the Navy stripped the ship and stopped the project. The Eldridge served in the war and was turned over to Greece at the end of the war. Now, the 2, Al Bielek and Duncan Cameron, they said they ran out on. This is the Philadelphia Project in the 1940s. They said as it was entering the invisibility stage, they jumped over the side of the deck, but they ended in a time tunnel, which ended at Montauk. They landed in August 12th, 1983, and we kind of spoke about this earlier. They were found very quickly at Project Montauk, and they were taken downstairs where von Neumann greeted them. Von Neumann was not surprised by their arrival. So the scientist that was in charge of the 1943 project is here in 1983. If that's not making you trip balls, I don't know what will. So there was some kind of lockup in hyperspace, and they had to. They needed these guys were brothers, and that's what's crazy about this is they don't have the same name, but Al Bielek was when he was on that ship. It said his name was actually Ed Cameron or Ed Duncan, and that they were actually brothers. Yeah, so Al Bielek, when he was on the ship, he was Ed Duncan. He made the trip to Montauk via the ship going invisible. Well, they realized that he was actually, at some point in time, his identity was changed in time. So what they had to do, this is so hard to explain.
So weird.
They went back in time and changed his identity. But then he did something in space that caused him to age significantly during all these Montauk experiments.
He done fucked up.
He did fuck up. So then when he came back from those time traveling experiments, he had aged all these years. They needed to do something to make good by what they've done. So they went back in time to his father and said, "Hey, we are time travelers from the future. We need you to have another son, and we have to because the son you have now is in the future, and he's gonna die. We need your help." Sorry if you hear a baby. There's a baby sitting on my lap. It's her first birthday.
There she is.
He's dying. We need your help. So he makes another son. They take the brain from the aged Ed Cameron.
This is so fucking crazy.
And they put it in the brain of the new son that was made in 1927 or whatever the fuck ever. And at some point, his identity was changed because he was put with another family during amongst the shuffle of all these fucking science experiments. Now, it's said that there were flying saucers for several days hovering over...
She likes the story.
Sorry. There's a... Hold on 1 second here. All right. The baby's on the floor. She's eating cat food. She's not... Sound like we were at Rob's house again for a little bit. But it said there were flying saucers hovering over the Eldridge during the Philadelphia experiment, and they got sucked into a time warp and they were transported to one of the underground tunnels at Montauk and got stuck there. The aliens demanded a large quartz crystal to help get their ship's engine started to be able to leave. The time machine was used to obtain one from another planet. And these two guys that jumped off the ship from earlier, they were sent back in time and they were instructed to destroy generators, to destroy everything that they needed to stop the project. And they created a time tunnel for them to come back. So they destroyed everything in 1943, which axed the Eldridge, the Philadelphia experiment. But then they made it back to 1983 Montauk, and that's where you have these guys now that speak of the first-hand accounts from everything that the ones that are putting out the stories for the Montauk projects. Now, this is where we're getting into my wheelhouse. Professional wrestler Rob Van Dam, the whole fucking show, who is known for doing just insurmountable amounts of drugs and marijuanas and cocaines. He claims to have accidentally stumbled upon the area of Montauk while driving to an arena. During 1 hour's time, he went into a time tunnel and claimed to have met Nikola Tesla, who told him that he was going to, quote, going to return in 2007 to end it all. Tesla was not he was not successful in that attempt.
Poor guy.
So now we're going to speak about the end of the Project Montauk. Sorry, there is a baby at my feet. August 12th, 1983, on this date, a time portal was opened that connected Montauk Base with the USS Eldridge of 40 years ago. during the original Philadelphia experiment. While this portal was being opened and maintained, several members of the project who had become increasingly uncomfortable with the aims and designs of the project heads, and with the effect that warping time and space might have on the world around them, decided to bring the project to a crashing halt. A code phrase was whispered to Duncan, at which point he released a monster from his subconscious.
There it is.
A fucking Demogorgon.
The Demogorgon.
This creature, or what they called it, a beast from the ID, materialized as a large, hairy monster that smashed its way about the base, destroying and eating everything it could find. Meanwhile, one of the project members began cutting apart cables and conduits in an attempt to sever the power to the base transmitters and shut down the project. After smashing up and cutting apart enough equipment, the transmitter powered down, and the beast mercifully faded away. So this goddamn asshole intergalactic time-traveling Bigfoot came on this ship and fucking ruined all the fun.
Oh, man. It's got to destroy everybody's hopes and dreams.
How hairy of a story is this?
It's pretty crazy. It takes every which way, every turn.
After that disaster on August 12th, after they brought the intergalactic time-traveling Demogorgon Bigfoot porn star, August 12th, 1983, the Montauk Project was shut down. The base was emptied of people and equipment, and all personnel were brainwashed into forgetting everything that had happened. Almost a year later, in May or June of 1984, a unit of Black Berets, possibly elite Marines, entered the base with orders to shoot anything and everything that moved.
Whew.
They purged the base for a second team, which removed any equipment deemed too sensitive to abandon. After that, the underground chambers were sealed off. Finally, at the end of 1984, cement was poured into many of the elevator shafts and underground areas of Montauk Base, sealing off all the areas used for the most extreme of the space-time experiments. Afterwards, the gates to Montauk Air Force Base were locked, and the base was abandoned for a second and final time. Eventually, Fort Hero and Montauk Base was donated to the state of New York as a park.
Fun stuff.
And that...
If we know anything, though, which we've kind of already talked about, I would say there's a good chance that it may just be a different name now.
Yeah.
For all we know, it still could be continuing as just under a different project name.
It's still, I would have to imagine something like that, you don't just shut down.
Yeah. Yep. Fun stuff. Think about that while you're taking a shit today.
God bless. And that is the story of the Montauk Project. A little bit of... I think eventually we would probably still cover the Philadelphia experiment, because that's kind of...
Yeah, it all intertwines there. It's a good enough story to where we could do a whole episode on it. You can find a lot of different information on it.
So leave us a review on iTunes. I don't know what we're doing next week. I think we're going with a Patreon episode, probably the Soviet murderer.
Yeah, that's
serial
cool.
killer from Russia.
Yeah.
Bad motherfucker. I don't know his name. Sorry about my baby making noises. Today is her first birthday party.
It's her birthday, so don't be too hard on her.
Little baby Brohio.
Yeah.
Little Paisley. She's yanking on my headphones right now. Thanks again for listening. We appreciate
you guys.
Appreciate you guys more than you know.
Talk to you next week.
Love you.